This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
So it's quite a bit of a different world than it was the last time that we spoke. A couple weeks ago, the Black Lives Matter movement was added to the pandemic of 2020 into the consciousness of our lives. And it really has made a powerful impact on everyone, especially up here in Portland, where we've seen a lot of protests and a few things that are honestly probably pretty mild compared to the rest of the country. So in times like these, we really need a form of stability. We need a foundation. And that's why I'm really honored to bring you part 2 of Rich Clinton and Andy Makin's conversation. And before I get into really introducing that, I would like to do a little bit of housekeeping, like I typically do. So first off, Listen Closely is being shipped off to the duplication house this week. That means it's going to be in the hands of the duplicators, and we should be getting some CDs here pretty soon. When we do get the new CDs, I will be replacing our website with a new website that is really focused on the Listen Closely record. So when that website changes, which is just henryschild.com, you'll either be able to order online or you can pick it up directly from us in person in Salem, if you'd like, if that's easier for you. Since the first podcast came out a couple weeks ago, I've also been getting requests for the record Satellite Trampoline 3. Satellite Trampoline 3 was the CD that we created with Andy Makin during his short time over here in America. And as you're about ready to hear, it has made a tremendous impact on his life even now, 20 years after the fact. So if you would like a copy of Satellite Trampoline 3, go ahead and write me directly at henryschild@henryschild.com, and I can send you a digital copy of the record. And this isn't some EP. I mean, these are 13 full-length songs that sound great. I mean, really, it's remarkable for the time because this was right at the cusp where digital recording was done with DA-38s, but before kind of Pro Tools entered the picture. So it really sounds great for what it is. And yeah, we're happy to give that away. Write me at henryschild@henryschild.com, and I'll make sure to send you a digital copy within a couple days. I also want to acknowledge that I skipped May's newsletter. And the reality is there's no excuse for it. And I will continue to be writing and sending out these podcasts as new things and new information kind of comes along. So as you're about ready to hear, you're going to hear some really interesting different perspectives. We've got Andy Makin over in the UK, who grew up worshiping and listening to American bands. And we have Rich Clinton, who grew up in Northern California, who listened and worshiped British bands. So this whole entire second part of the podcast is devoted exclusively for music. So if you want to feel like you're between two musicians that really know their stuff, who are super passionate about music, you're going to love this episode. So please enjoy this conversation between Rich Clinton and Andy Makin.
I mean, it's absolutely stupid when you think about it. It's just really weird. Like, I ended up going to the US because of music.
Yeah.
All sorts of bizarre things have happened in my life because of that.
Yeah.
You know, literally talking to Steve Harris on the stairs of the O2 in London about a weird gig in Texas he had, and we were just chatting away.
Yeah.
And then after, I thought, bloody hell, that's Steve Harris. My favourite one, you'll like this one. Sorry, I know I'm doing the name drop thing, but you'll like this one. I think we were like third gig in or something. We were playing in Manchester, and this guy comes up to me and says, "That was a bloody great gig. I really liked that. That was great. Last time I played here, the sound was shit, but you were great. I really liked that." And it was KK fucking down.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that one.
And you're just.
I know you were more of a priest guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so that was KK. Yeah, fucking hell, man.
I was just more of a priest guy because I'm old. They just
but it was
just
you know, it was
predated
lovely.
Maiden, you know.
Yeah. So that was my favorite bit.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so-
You know, something.
Yeah,
Priest was from Birmingham, also, weren't they?
Yeah.
So
Totally.
you had all these bands that came out of Birmingham. Priest and Maiden.
Oh, well, Maiden were London, but yeah, you've got like the north of England, so you had like the Sheffield thing. So I mean, Bruce is from Sheffield, from Maiden. Then you've got like Sax and all that from up north, and then the Midlands. Yeah, you got Sabbath and you've got Priest, and a lot of others as well. But yeah, the Midlands is Midlands has always had that kind of scene going on, you know.
Well, isn't Def Leppard from Sheffield?
Def Leppard, yeah.
Your favorite band?
Yeah, I won't do my joke.
No Lurving here, huh?
Oh, there's nothing wrong. The thing is, I liked Leopard, like High and Dry and that stuff.
Oh yeah,
It was when they got Mutt Lange, whatever his name was, when they started doing that stuff. I wasn't as much of a fan then, but I heard, was it Animal or whatever it is, the other day, and it's brilliant pop music. It's fantastic pop music. But I remember I had High and Dry, and Pyromania was all right. I just didn't like the drum sound. It was too like electric drums for me.
Right.
And they were bringing out the new album, and they were going to go on Top of the Pops. And I remember being quite excited because, you know, we didn't have MTV.
Right.
And it was going to be like a heavy metal band. It was going to be a metal band on Top of the Pops. Fantastic. And it came on, they played it, and it was like, oh, well, that's shit. And he's got a mullet. So that's that, isn't it? You know, and so that's kind of put the kibosh on Def Leppard for me. But they're bloody brilliant. I mean, and on top of that, they've got Viv Campbell.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Viv Campbell, for fuck's sake, right? What a guitar player. So,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was funny. I really, really appreciated the time that you were over here and we could just sit there and talk music, because I'm such a nerd when it comes to music and knowing all these different people when it, you know, and I would point out everybody else, they look at me just, I can see them, you know, receding into their own mind when I'm talking to them. When I'm like, oh, you know, Vivian Campbell, he was supposed to be in Thin Lizzy, but they got John Sykes instead, and he was pissed because Viv is Irish, and he was running around at the time calling John Sykes John Sucks, and he felt he was heir to that, and then we went back to the whole John Sykes and Vivian Campbell thing for Whitesnake, you know. And
What the fuck?
And each one of those guys came after Mel Gailey, who was the guitar player initially.
Yeah.
When they first came out and got, well, I shouldn't say when they first came out. By the time they got popular, they're a little like Judas Priest. It was like the 5th album in or something. Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So, I mean, that's because they did the American thing. But before that, they were this lovely rock and blues band, right?
Yeah.
And you had Bernie Marsden and then Mel Galley.
Yeah.
You also had, oh God, they're gonna the gods of rock are gonna really give me shit later. I'll remember his name in a minute. Glasses and Played the Slide. Anyway, and also that first Whitesnake album is fucking great.
Yeah.
It's really, really good, right?
Yeah.
In fact, the first couple are fine until he gets a little bit too salacious with his lyrics, and they're just dull after that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you can't knock Coverdale either.
No.
One of the greatest rock singers of all fucking time.
Absolutely.
And then what do? Right? So they get that Slide It In album, the John Sykes thing, because they do the other version of it. They do the American version, right, of Slide It In, which features John Sykes. The British version didn't. Right? So you'd have the original blues band playing, but with Cozy Powell on drums, right?
Yeah.
And then they do 1987. Now, still to this day, that album is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
It is incredible. What an album. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes the American, you could see it was a direct shift as well. It was like, we're dirty blues rockers, and now we're going to be these guys with Tawny Kitten.
Right. Right.
Sliding off a Jag.
Right. Well, it did. It didn't do him it did him a service at the time, but it did him a disservice over time, over the long period, because that is a lot of people's introduction to the band. So they can't get past that era. They can't get past the hair era.
No.
And they don't know. There's a lot of bands that happened to. Even, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's why grunge had to come along and kill it. It had to, because it became too pretentious and over the top. I mean, when Ozzy had a perm and KK had a
Yeah.
perm, and they're all wearing sequins and everything. It's like, yeah, we jumped the shark, on this one.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the thing is, right? I was a huge grunge fan. I was at the right age for it as well, right? We're talking, what was I, 20 in 92? So there you go, right?
Yeah.
So you had Pantera as well, let's not forget.
Right.
So you had like the heavy stuff. You had Sepultura coming out, right?
Right.
From Brazil. This is this weird heavy shit coming out. Sounds like thrash Motorhead. Fuck yeah. And then you had Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, right? And Nirvana. And I was never a Nirvana fan because I was just not that side of metal. I was not that punk side of metal, that kind of Melvin's area, right?
Sure.
I was more sort of Soundgarden. I appreciate the vocal and like Pearl Jam kind of, which Pearl Jam, let's face it, was grunge with Stevie Ray guitars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then you've got Alice in Chains, and then suddenly everything changes because then there's a vocalist who can do that. Fairly basic harmonies, but done so beautifully and so well. And which is basically just, I mean, if you take away the vocals off, like especially off the first couple of albums, it's just basic rock.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
And then you just get this dark vocal over the top of it, and it transcends. So yeah, I think grunge did do a service, but then old fart that I am now, I've gone back and listened to some of the sort of glammier stuff. Right, and there were a couple of songs on there that were, like deep cuts. Like for instance, right, DAD, remember them?
Sure, yeah.
Disneyland After Dark, right?
Yeah.
And Sleeping My Day Away.
Sure,
right, which is a fucking awesome song, right? And what was the other one? Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, so there are roses amongst the thorns.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I like the first Crew album because to me it's just so badly produced. It's beautiful.
My favorite Crew album. It's just raw.
Right.
It's
so raw, right? That guitar tone is to die for, and then the drums, man, fuck, they're just great. They're just so good.
And all that cowbell.
Oh yeah, dunk 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 da 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 dunk dunk dunk. Yeah.
Just sounds.
What a great album, though.
Oh, it's a wonderful album. It's like still to this day, it's my favorite. I was okay with Shout at the Devil, but it just didn't.
Yeah, because it was Devil.
Yeah, exactly. But it just didn't have that same bordering on punk. The thing when you're 14 years old that got you into it in the first place was the fact that it was slightly rebellious, and that felt like something my parents would never like.
Oh, exactly.
Just what the hell is this?
Yeah, all that shit. I mean, that fucking film, Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With Ozzy as the priest.
Right.
Right? And, oh, come on. What was the band who did the soundtrack? The British guy. Oh, man. I'll remember it. It'll come back to me at 3 o'clock in the bloody morning, that will. Great album. Yeah, that whole scene, where there was a moment in the 80s where the glam actually was relevant in that it had and it wasn't the British glam thing, it wasn't Bowie and it wasn't T-Rex and that kind of thing, which is fairly normal sort of androgynous weirdness blokes, very British,
Yeah.
Whereas glam metal is that a guy? I'm not sure. What is that? It was like, he's wearing assless-chaps, for God's sake, right? Almost spat me a pipe out. It was ridiculous, right? So, I mean, but there was a moment, I think, where there was a validity to it, and I think it just got to that point where I think it was around about, like that, the sort of the late 80s, early 90s, like the Every Rose Has Its Thorn bit.
Right,
and where a point as well about grunge killing that stuff. Do you know what I think also killed it? I think Sleaze killed it. Guns N' Roses killed it as well.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think Guns N' Roses came from that place and they killed it as well because they became more Stones than glam, in a way.
Yeah, it's like everything had to go back. If you think about it, it's like everything had to go back and 10, 15 years before and pull from that. Because basically Guns N' Roses and I would say they reminded me more of like 70s rock.
Yeah, and Black Crowes,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
There was an authentic thing to it, a vibe to it. It was like, okay, that's rock and roll. Not metal, not rock, hard rock. No, that's rock and roll. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it did go back, which is again then when grunge came in, it was, well, this is what Sabbath would sound like if they came from Seattle.
Yeah, exactly.
It was that. You got like Sabbath, Husker Du. You got like Melvin's vibe. You got so that whole thing was. I don't think it was just a reaction. I think it was also that scene up in Seattle as well, man. I mean, you had the punk bands and stuff, that and the hardcore vibe. That it's gonna bleed in. If your frame of reference is the rehearsal rooms that you go to,
right,
then the sound that leaks there is going to eventually get to you.
Well, everything was kind of tamped down for a while. There's that weird kind of transitory time between the end of glam metal and grunge popping up, where you had bands like Jane's Addiction. Yeah. And you had, of course, Guns N' Roses. So Guns N' Roses and Jane's Addiction they're living at the same time. And there's there's nothing very similar about it, except they're rock bands. And they're more just straight rock bands. Like, Guns N' Roses also, it's a little more like Hanoi Rocks to me, too. It's like, it's more of that.
Yeah.
Just kind of bad boy rock from the 70s, Aerosmith, things like that,
Yeah, yeah.
From the 70s, like the Toys in the Attic era. I don't know how big Aerosmith ever got in Europe, but...
Oh, they were big, but not 70s Aerosmith. Not 70s Aerosmith as such, because we had our guys then. You know? I think, when they were all back from rehab, that's when it hit off, when they went phenomenal everywhere,
Right.
Also, the whole the Run DMC thing, Walk This Way. I mean, that I think got to people's perception here. But before that, no, I think you just had rock fans who were into Aerosmith rather than the sort of general populace.
Right.
And yeah, to your point then of bands sounding or doing that whole rock and roll thing then, sort of late 80s, early 90s, that were valid. I think it was only valid because the guys who were singing it were the right age as well.
Right.
Because that's why, they had that youth about them as well. And so it was rebellious, what are you rebelling against? And that kind of vibe. But yeah, there's that weird transitional period where, you had like the grunge guys, some of the grunge guys who signed like, when Alice in Chains, they were kind of doing that. It was they didn't look grunge. They were like hippie, rocky, kind of chick guy, weird thing, right? Because the industry didn't know what it was doing either. And I think we forget that South American and also European element that came in as well, like Sepultura and some of the European bands that came in and went, no, we don't wash our hair anymore and we wear combat trousers.
Right.
And suddenly they went, that's what it is. Right. All you lot over there, you come here, you lot, that chap there with a needle sticking out of his arm, come here. Now you're going to wear combat trousers now and don't wash your hair. And that's grunge. And then they signed up everybody.
Yeah, it's just one fell swoop. It was strange because, of course, living in the Northwest, we were closer to it, but it didn't affect us as much. We had, it's like Eugene had its own little, we always considered it seems, looking back on it, to be a little bit more of an art rock scene. We were more...
Well, come on, man. I mean, you're living in Oregon.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and then
so you've got... What's the percentage now? Because I know you've got like the hunter redneck guy, and then you've got hippie art chap, right?
It's pretty much exactly the same.
Right? Exactly. Okay. So an Oregonian by if they know what coffee beans are, right?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. That's a certain blend from Brazil. I know that. Oh, right. You're that type. Right?
That and beer.
The guy over here who just right.
That and a million
so,
different kinds of
Oregon's
beer.
always been that, though, hasn't it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're just kind of sandwiched between two really powerful areas, with Seattle and Washington, and then of course California just.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're just like the little... I mean, we used to have people that didn't know that Oregon was a state. They just thought it was extreme Northern California.
Yeah.
They'd heard of Washington and Seattle, and they'd heard of Portland, but that was about it. Nothing else. And of course, the world's gotten a lot smaller now with the internet.
I was about to insult you then and say, you were kind of like... You guys are kind of like Canada.
Right, Southern Canada.
Yeah, Canada sucks. I remember that. That was a Family Guy quote.
Yeah.
Right?
That was the original Family Guy.
The first season was when I was over, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. And we watched it, and was it Stewie? No, I think it was Brian. No, it can't be. It must have been Peter.
It was Peter.
And he goes, Canada sucks. And you fucking roared, man. You were gone. Oh, I'll always remember that. That's so funny.
I remember that. Yeah, and the funny thing was, that was 99, so Family Guy had just come out, and then they were canceled. And it took quite a while for it to come back, and of course it's still going
was it?
now. Yeah, it was too much at the time, so they just killed it off for a few years, and it just came back, and it's been on ever since, pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
When people
it's
a
wonderful mirror to hold up. It really is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the just everything is just kind of caught up, finally. You know, it took a long time. It was funny because the other day, Tom, we were talking about, me, Tom, and Brian, about MTV and how when it first came on, what a huge cultural impact it had. And the fact that you would watch it and it was like a drug. You couldn't leave it because you wanted to know what was next.
Yeah.
Because it was possibly something you've never seen before. So you just sat in front of it and just watched it for hours on end. So lo and behold, what does Tom do? Like a few days later, he sends a link, and on the Internet Archive, they have original MTV program. Like, they have the first like an hour of the when it first came on the air. And I was sitting in front of the television when it came on there. We were ready for it, man, because we'd had a few little things before that, but the impact that made. And the funny thing is, it seems to me that videos still have some impact, but they're all online now, of course, YouTube and.
Yep.
And me and Andrew, this is a couple of years ago, we were watching YouTube and we're going through and we'd looking at different videos and seeing how many hits they had and how many views. Millions. And then you wouldn't even know who they were.
Oh, I know.
They have like 3-4 million views on a group you've never heard before in your life.
But, I mean, my take with videos, and, you know, we've discussed making videos over the years. I don't want to do a video unless it's like the first time I saw one of the Tool videos, the animated videos.
Right.
If it's not... The thing is, I hit my own wall with this, but it's basically... A video is there to sell a song, right? That's one theory, right? Or is it to accentuate the song, right? Well, let's try and do both.
Right.
So, firstly, the song has to... the video for it has to either convey a meaning that the song wants to, or convey a meaning that the director gets from it, or whatever it is. It has to be artistically as important as the song for it to have any meaning to me. And that can be as throwaway as just a live performance, but meaning it in front of a camera, and I'll love that and I'll watch that all day.
Right.
It could be studio footage, or it could be fucking amazing animation that comes out of nowhere and tells a story beginning to end. Right? Now, a lot of the videos that you see, I'm like, oh, really? You know, I just want to see amazing stuff. And it doesn't have to be, I mean, it's like, what's that Radiohead one, the animated one? It's like shitty animation.
Oh, yeah, I know what
it's off OK Computer,
yeah.
Right? And it's just great. It's bloody brilliant because it's just telling the story. And a lot of the videos you see, and a lot of the bands, especially band videos, it's like, oh, God, well, this is just selling it. It's an advert.
Right.
I don't want an advert. I want a piece of theatre.
Oh, I agree.
You know?
I agree. I've never been a fan of performance videos, you know, where it's just the band playing.
I mean, if it's done well and it's a beautifully edited thing, then yeah, okay, I get it. But if it's not, then just don't fucking bother. You know, it's tough, and they're so expensive unless you know the people. I want to just interject just a second because I have a quote, right, which is a Canada-related quote.
Okay. All right?
But it's one up for Canada. It's in 1816, right? The United States, they built a fort. I don't know if you're aware of this. It was to protect itself from invasion by Canada. Right. But there was a bit of a problem because due to a surveying error, right, they built it in Canada.
Perfect.
And it was called Fort Blunder, which I thought you'd like that one.
That's great.
Isn't it great? Yeah. Sorry, but yeah. To get back to your video thing, okay. Let's do this then, right? Let's get top three rock videos that you can just go, yes, I know everyone. You know?
Right.
amazing. Why? Why was that amazing? I'd go with Sledgehammer for starters.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I'd also go with Cloud Busting.
Yeah.
Right, because then you've got Donald Sutherland in it.
Right.
How good is that? Right.
It's great.
And she's amazing in it. And a third. What would a third be? Probably one of the Tool ones.
Yeah, like Sober.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, it's just creepy, and the Key
creepy
brothers.
as fuck.
Well, it's the Key brothers. They told completely. Adam Jones, of course, was an art student.
Yeah.
And he stole from the Key brothers, who are a couple of English guys and visual artists. And boy, their movies, you watch any of those things, you go, oh, okay, yeah, I see it. It's weird and fucked up and dark and strange, and I don't feel comfortable watching this, but I'm going to watch it anyway. And
exactly.
There's a few out there that still, of course, it's so cost prohibitive. That's the problem with it.
That's it, right? Unless, you know someone who's part of that thing, It's the same with artwork, Not everybody can be, like John Baisley from Baroness.
Right.
Not everyone's got that talent.
Exactly.
Which just, I remember seeing his artwork for the first time and not even knowing the band.
Yeah.
I think I saw his art and thought, who's Colegate? Because he'd done art for Colegate or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And didn't like them, but liked the art, and then finally got into Baroness, But yeah, it's the whole package, man. We're lucky with 9 Miles Down with the art we used last time. Very, very good artist. But yeah, even just getting the art right, it's so important.
You're right. Like Roger Dean.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally.
You just
totally.
It's completely identifiable. You go, and it just you couldn't. Can you imagine Yes without Roger Dean?
Oh God, no! How could you sit there and listen to it without the album cover?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's part of it. Even I did a couple of sessions for a chap called Phil Lanson, who's in Uriah Heep. He's the keyboard player in Uriah Heep.
Yeah.
And I did some sessions. He has some really amazing musicians on there, which I'm trying to remember as I go along. John Mitchell, if you know.
Yeah, I love John Mitchell. Yeah.
Right.
Lonely Robot and Kino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's on there, and it was produced by Simon Hanhart, which is how I got the gig.
Oh, okay.
So I did a couple of albums with him, and those kind of guys. But his art for his 2 albums was really good as well. He'd spent the time on it.
Mm-hmm.
He got really good artwork. First and second one, and so I've got it up in front of me. So, for instance, on there, right, we had Richard Cottle, who played sax for Bowie.
Oh,
right, for a bit. Also in the Alan Parsons Project and shit like that, right?
Wow.
So like proper people,
right?
Proper bloody people. Even then, he was like Phil's album covers are absolutely fantastic. You still have to have that package. You can't not. You have to. I think it's part of it, isn't it?
Well, absolutely.
Could you do that? Could you do a whole album and just chuck out a shit album cover?
No. That's why I do it. I do it for us now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's always been, I think, a positive and possibly a negative for Henry's Child is we're so ambiguous. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what we are and what we do. We're a rock band. Basically, I just tell people we're a rock band now. Or I'll be slightly cheeky and say we're minimalistic progressive.
I would even venture as far as Tool-esque somewhat.
Yeah, but what is Tool?
Yeah.
So unless people are very familiar with that, it's hard to tell. Bottom line, come back to you have to have melody all the time. That's the thing that anchors everything as far as I'm concerned. But coming up with artwork for the last couple albums too, it's like, well, I can kind of do anything I want because there's no image or anything I have to attach it to, which is it's a double blessing in a way, in the fact that you're allowed this freedom. Once you get rolling, it's great. Initially, it's like when nothing's scarier than a blank page, right? When you get to start a story.
Oh, Christ,
it's like that.
Totally.
But I want the imagery to be visually. I kind of draw on that whole weird Tool kind of idea, just because it's just trippy, and it's,
Yeah.
the band's kind of trippy. So that's
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing with Henry's Child as well is, I mean, not to blow smoke up you, but I mean, it is fundamentally based on your tone and your way of playing. It is. I mean, whether it's got, Andrew singing or me singing or, I mean, let's go deep cuts, even Rex singing.
Yeah.
Right? Or even with, work you do with Brian. At the end of the day, it's Henry's Child because it's you. You have your own tone, you have your own voice on that instrument, and that's kind of what dictates what it is.
Yeah.
And there is that ambiguity to it then because, it's a guitar tone, not necessarily a vocal or a chorus or a song or whatever. It's a living, breathing thing that goes through all the music.
And I can hear that. I've worked hard on that for years, and just, in fact, I tried to just stay away from mocking anything or picking up any influence. If anything was going to influence me, just let it kind of come naturally, let it come through the ether and drop on my head, not instead of me searching it out in a cave somewhere.
Well, that's. I mean, you were kind of a blueprint for me. It was kind of Adrian and you really were like, because I was still sort of forming what sort of guitar player I wanted to be around '99. I could play, but I couldn't play very well. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and so I kind of ended up being sort of the metal version of you.
Well, thanks.
So hey, no worries. Well, I'll take what I find and steal what I can. What I liked was it was that was it a basement, that Fender head you had?
Oh, dual Showman.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's your pedals in front, just your Boss pedals, your delay. Was it a DD3 you had?
Yeah, I think I probably did have a DD3. Yeah.
It's probably the DD3, right?
Yeah.
And then there was this tone that you had, which could be like, it could be fuzz. It could be that vibe. It could be like really crunchy, and you just did this other stuff, this ambient stuff that nobody was fucking doing. And what I got from it as a guitar player was, I know I'm in the dreaded world of Kempers now, but my Kemper, what I play through isn't a traditional sort of modern high gain shit. I play through a 71 plexi. And that's it. I don't put a pedal in front of it, and it's just a plexi, but I'm able to turn it up and soak it a bit. And then with the Kemper, then I can put a couple of pedals on the floor like a phaser or a flange or whatever. Yeah. But that's it. And it's literally, because they're so good at roll-off as well, like a couple of the old amps I've had, I'm that player. I'm in like quite a heavy band. We're a drop C heavy metal band. Yeah. And my other guitar player is either in a plexi mode and use it as a clean platform with like really heavy distortions, or high gain amps like Mesas, that kind of vibe, right? Yeah. So he's that kind of guitar, that style of tone is his, and I'm this other guy, this kind of old classic rock guy who just tunes down to, because I took it also from like when Mastodon came along.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
Because then you had these guys who were playing Les Pauls and various Gibsons and old amps, and they were tuned down, and it sounded glorious to me. It didn't sound overly compressed and tight and that chunk or gent or any of that stuff, which is fine in its own world, but it's just not for me as a player.
Right.
I like to hear the fizz and crackle of the amp barely keeping up.
Right.
And so that was a massive influence as well. But so you can. It's your fault, effectively.
Should I say I'm sorry or thank you?
No, I'm over it now. It's okay.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I mean that it only makes, it just is a natural thing, a progression that you do the artwork because you're the guy who makes the noise.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to do it, then fantastic. It was hard for me to let go enough to get an artist in, but we had to, because I can't do enough of that to make it acceptable to my eyes, and also we just don't have the money, you know. And then we were able to get really fortunate to get a really good artist in for the last album. I don't know what we'll do next time, because I know his prices have gone up now because he's doing lots of bigger bands.
Really? See what you did?
Yeah. Oh fuck yeah! It just happens, But also that's cool as well. Is trying to find the artists that are out there. The ones in the art colleges and stuff that want to do that sort of stuff,
Sure. I mean, you could put a call out, now, at least with, the internet and, you could just throw it out there and let people.
Well, that's the beauty of the lockdown as well. I mean, like, I know there's a pretty much finished song, right, that I wrote end of last year, and we've had the band do all its parts, but we haven't done the drums yet. They're still programmed drums, and they're good, but I'd like a live drummer. And luckily, because of lockdown, we've got a list of people who aren't doing anything right now.
Yeah.
So we're putting the request out that, get some drummers in, see what you can do, so that would be cool. I can't wait for that.
How far out do you think you are to actually getting something recorded and pressed and written?
Well, that's the other thing as well. I mean, I'm an album guy. I like doing albums, but it just doesn't seem to be any point, really. We've gone from an album that we had a record deal with, which went out on vinyl, and it's downloadable, and it's, we had to print out CDs for the tour because nobody, you don't go up to a merch desk and go, I'll have a T-shirt and a download, please.
Right.
It's just absolute bullshit. But nobody actually buys CDs anymore, but, only on tour, right? And bands can't tour now, and so you can't make any money. It's shocking. But as for the next album, will it be an album, or will it just be, let's write a song, produce it, get it mixed and engineers, mastered, get an artwork on it, and get it out?
Right.
It might be that. I don't. I'm not sure yet. When we all sort of escape from our lockdown and we emerge blinking into the light, what type of place will it be for musicians on that level? I don't know. I don't know, because nobody can tour. Nobody can make money any other way than touring. It's just impossible.
So many strange new things may come of this. The fact that it's global. We've never, not in the modern time have we all, been huddled around the same fire. It's strange, and in some way it's comforting knowing that it's just not us going through it. Everybody's going through it, and we just need something good needs to come out of it, and hopefully it does.
Well, something good needs to, like you were saying earlier on in the conversation about the yin and yang thing, right?
Yeah.
For every yin, right? For every Gal Gadot and her friends, right, singing that god-awful fucking song, right?
Yeah.
There has to be a yang, right? And there hasn't been one yet, right? She needs to be told about that. But so there has to be that other side of it. There has to be the flip side of it as well. Yeah. I mean, when we emerge from this, what's going to happen? But you're absolutely right. I mean, as it's a global problem and a global issue, there is that comfort, I guess, that cold comfort, I suppose, that we're all in it together.
Well, sure. I mean,
and also there's the beautiful things that are happening, like the part of the planet's recovering from us.
Yeah.
Which is just incredible when you think about it.
Thanks for listening to the Am I Crazy or Am I Just Raving podcast. Isn't it great to be a fly on the wall between two very passionate musicians who they've not only paid their dues many times over, but they have a mutual appreciation of things with just a different enough twist to kind of make the conversation interesting. So I hope that you enjoyed that. If you aren't already subscribed to this podcast, please go to the store of your choice and click the subscribe button. It's a tiny action that takes about 3 seconds to do, and it really does wonders for us when it comes to the algorithm that Google, Apple, and Spotify use. So please, make your choice on one of those platforms and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you are not subscribed to our newsletter, you should go to our website, which is henryschild.com, and click the free download button on the top. When you click the free download button, you'll be taken to a section where you can enter in your first name and your email address. That will really do two things. Number one, it'll put you on our newsletter list so I can reach out to you about shows, recordings, and kind of let you know what's going on with the band. And number two, you actually get sent a copy of Tell Me True that's different than what's on the I Have Become recording. So please, if you haven't signed up yet, go to our newsletter list and sign up, henryschild.com, and hit the download link at the top. I really, truly hope that you and your tribe are doing well. And if you need anything from Henry's Child, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at henryschild@henryschild.com. It's the best email to get a hold of us. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
It came out my mouth.